You're listening to the DCAU Review, hosted by Cal and Liam, streaming on iTunes, Google Podcasts, and at DCAUreview.com. Now, here's today's episode.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 39 of the DCAU Review. I'm your host, Cal, and along with me, the DCAU Twitter guru, my good brother and host, Liam. Liam, welcome back to the DCAU Review.
You know, we had a rough one last week.
Oh, boy.
And this is better. It's not great, but it's better.
We had such a terrible time last week that we decided to leave Batman the Animated Series behind. That, coupled with the fact that the fans demanded more Batman Beyond.
Yes, that's right.
So it's back to the future, as they say.
Oh,
hey, you see what I did there? So we're going back to futuristic Gotham, back to watch some Batman Beyond here. So we continued on in order. Seems like we're doing the Batmans in order. Everything else we're kind of jumping around a little bit. But so we went back in order. So we're back to where we stopped in Batman Beyond. So we're picking up with episode, is it 8, I think, on the DVD?
Yes.
I think it's episode 8, which is Dead Man's Hand, which introduces, sort of backwardsly, introduces the Royal Flush Gang into the DCAU universe. I just called it the DCAU universe, which is double.
It's like ATM machine.
Yeah, it's good point. Yes, so introducing them into the DCAU, and so Liam, let's talk.
To be fair, DC Comics is Detective Comics comics.
True.
So
that is a valid and fair point.
Redundancy runs in this universe.
It's the Department of Redundancy Department.
Correct.
Gotcha. All right. Yes, Dead Man's Hand is the episode we're tackling today. Introduction of the Royal Flush Gang, which, like you said, it's easy to pick up based on where we were last week and say, get a little breathing room here, a little breath of fresh air. Back to Batman Beyond. Well, what do you think of this episode?
Yeah, I guess we can jump into plot a little bit here. It's fine. There's a lot of things I like about it. I like the type of story they're doing, because I think if you're doing teenage Batman, what comes with that is a lot of very Spider-Man-y problems.
Yeah.
Of Terry's letting his girlfriend, his mom, his Terry McGinnis responsibilities are going to be let down because he's spending so much time being Batman, which of course is a pretty recurring theme in the Spider-Man world. So I like the idea of this plot of he's sort of frustrated because he's got so much to do as Batman, and so he's late for yet another date with Dana. She dumps him in the middle of the dance floor at the crazy techno club.
So dramatic.
And, of course, Bruce Wayne is sort of very dismissive of his problems because it's just a teenager. They'll be back together next. He might as well have just said next episode,
right? Because
they are, I'm pretty sure. But yeah. So and then immediately he goes outside the club and meets this girl Melanie, who we find out about 3 minutes later is part of this Royal Flush Gang, and we get a little bit of backstory, as you mentioned, that the Royal Flush Gang has fought Batman before. The King mentions that when he was young, perhaps when he was the Jack of the group, Batman arrested all of them and broke up the family. And so not only are they trying to get money so that they can retire, they also want to kill Batman because
they have a vendetta.
So the return of Batman, this version obviously being Terry, brought the return of the Royal Flush Gang for revenge against him, as well as trying to raise a new fortune. So,
right, yeah. What did you? I mean, to that, I think you're right. You have to write these stories if you're doing teenage Batman, because that's the type of problems that teenagers have. Yeah. At the same time, though, I couldn't help but feel annoyed the entire episode. Just like, Terry, man, like, no one put a gun to your head and made you Batman. Like, no one said you have to do this. And I get it. You're falling under the pressure of, well, you want to make Mr. Wayne happy and you like the job. But it's an interesting dynamic. I think that my issue is they didn't go deep enough, I think.
Okay.
There's not enough Bruce. Like, I would rather have had more of the dynamic of Bruce trying to explain to him why why you need to put aside your personal family. And you get the part where Terry blows up on him and tells him that he doesn't want to be alone like Bruce ends up being,
right?
Which is very emotionally charged and would feel, I think, even more real if we had from the opposite side Bruce really going through and lecturing Terry on why this is the priority and why he needs to focus on being Batman instead of just kind of brushing off everything Terry says.
Right, and I think there's something to that. As I mean, we know, like, when we find Bruce at the beginning of Rebirth, he's an old man living at home with a dog. Mm-hmm. There's no Tim, there's no Barbara, there's no Dick. Everybody's gone. So the idea of someone throwing that in his face as, all these people that loved you, that you loved, left you, that should be a bigger moment.
Agreed.
Because that's really the first time it's been, like, directly addressed and thrown at him. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of just brushed over, and the next time we see him, he's, like, forgiving Terry, and they walk off into the sunset together.
Right.
And this is addressed again a little bit more obviously in, like, Return of the Joker, and when we get a few more episodes with Barbara Gordon as a focus.
Right.
So we do get some of that down the line, but it felt like this was an opportunity, and maybe there could have been a little less, or maybe there was just too much. Maybe they shouldn't have used that part of it, like, to go that personal now.
Yeah,
like, if it was more just Terry being like, "Oh man," and Bruce sort of being the hard ass, like, drill sergeant. But they went to the well of having, like, the personal insults start getting thrown, and Bruce getting in his face and telling him that, one night can make all the difference in this job. And
it's true.
And
which is some interesting foreshadowing, although I don't know it was purposeful, but a foreshadowing certainly to Return of the Joker.
Yes, absolutely.
One night changes everything.
Right, the night Robin was out alone,
or the night that Bruce's parents died, or,
right,
or whatever it's alluding his allusions are to there. I think that you're right. I think maybe they just tried to do too much in setting up the dynamic between what Terry with Bruce and Ten with. It was hard to determine. Is it her dad? Is it her stepdad? Because her mom, like, Queen is her mom, I think.
Yes.
But she says, like, they welcomed us into this family, or like
this family's been good to us,
right?
And it's always been here. Like, it's not 100% clear, but it's clear that she doesn't have the relationship with
King
that she has with Queen.
Sure.
But yes,
but I see what they were going for. You're
kind
setting
of a
up
Romeo-Juliet thing.
Right, you're setting up the dynamic on both sides, and they just want to be together. But even that's convoluted. They met each other. They had maybe a 3-hour interaction the first time they met. Maybe if that's giving it some credit.
Yeah,
maybe.
like some time passes between when they meet outside the club and when they say their goodbyes.
Right, so, okay, maybe a couple hours. And then 24 hours later, they spend another 5 hours together, and then they're in love, and they want to, he's willing to put Batman aside for it. I don't know. All I'm saying is, I get what they were going for, but I don't think they were effective in doing it. So I gave Plot 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I went 5 out of 10. Like I said, I pretty much just repeating what you said now. Yeah. But, like what they were going for, just think the execution could have been better.
I hear you. All right, let's move on to music, Liam. Music in this episode, I got to be honest, hung around in the background. We talked a little bit before about the difference between the Batman animated series and then Batman Beyond's music choices, music styles are very different. This, I don't remember the music standing out in any good ways. There's one particular scene where it stands out in a very, very bad way. And that was the scene where Terry and Ten finally are reunited under the clock. They both end up running late because, unbeknownst to them, they were fighting each other.
Yes.
But they show up and they embrace, and it's this sappy, like, terrible 80s rock ballad. It's awful.
Yeah, it was like the beginning of a White Snake song or something. I don't know.
So, just alluding to last week's episode, I think we've opened the floodgates. I'm no longer afraid to give a score less than like 3 anymore. Now that we've opened the floodgates on this, I gave music 2 out of 10 for this episode.
All right.
Not only was it not impactful in a way that I thought was memorable, it was memorable in a bad way. It was a detriment to the episode. I was just left scratching. I was just like, what even is this music? So 2 out of 10 for music for me. What about you?
Yeah, I went 4 out of 10. I didn't hit it quite as much as you.
Yeah.
But I can see where you're coming from. There's not like a strong Royal Flush Gang theme, and there isn't really like, it could have used maybe more of an emotional like swell when Terry and Bruce have their big falling out, but it's just kind of that I don't even think there is any music during that scene. You just hear Terry like shoves Bruce away and then runs, and you just hear Terry. There's really never any music in the Batcave, so they could have used it there. Was my point. You just kind of hear Terry's footsteps running away.
Speaking of which, do you think Bruce could be like convicted of assaulting a minor because he grabs Terry by the shirt? And
I think so.
Child abuse.
I mean, if we're going to talk about Bruce Wayne's child abuse,
let's not talk about that. Let's not
he
go
dressed up a bunch of them as birds and let him fight the Joker.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole. All right, So any other thoughts on music?
No, that's about it. Like I said, I didn't think it was quite so terrible, but certainly didn't enhance the episode in every way.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to visuals, shall we? Again, I think this category is going to be the one that stands out and was the strongest for me. We talked about it before we went on the air. It's a little difficult in certain ways. So I'll start out with my biggest gripe. Okay, so Melanie as a character I have no problems with. What I do have an issue with is their decision to animate one piece of hair in falling down her forehead, and all I can think about is that single strand comb over that they do the entire time in Batman the Animated Series. I get what they're going for. They're getting for like hair in her face, but it just looks like, I don't know, string cheese or something.
Yeah.
And that's all I see the entire episode. Like her hair is melting, her hair is butter and it's melting down her skull or something. I don't know. So that took my score down a little bit. With that said, I'll go to the positive now. The Royal Flush Gang looks awesome.
They do.
They look really cool. Yeah. Of course, this technically debuted before the Justice League and the different incarnations of the Royal Flush Gang on that series. But this gang is, to me, the standard of the Royal Flush Gang. They look cool. They look menacing. They're a good design. Like, I always regretted that they never made toys of these guys.
Yes.
Because they just look cool. Like, it's the red and the white and the gold. Mm-hmm. They look outstanding. And, I think their look is awesome. I think there's the scene where Terry and Melanie stay up all night together. And they're walking around. There's like a sunrise that comes over Gotham. That's the first like real light that you see in Gotham, like that twilight or that sunrise look. It's not a common look in the DCAU animation, so it's a unique. Yeah, it's a unique thing. So that was kind of cool. So for that reason, I gave visuals a strong 8 out of 10. How about you?
Yeah, I'm a little down on this one. I'm with 5 out of 10.
Oh, should we disagree? Is this a disagreement?
Maybe a little bit. Like, there's a lot of daytime in this though. Like the first scene on the cruise ship, and like I just didn't think the action was very. I didn't think any of the action.
Yacht because they were in a yacht club.
It was yacht. You're right. Correct. A yacht club.
Like
cards have clubs.
Yeesh.
That's like. Ugh.
That's a stretch.
Anyway, so I thought most of the action beats were a little lame and underperforming. Also, a weird one I just want to point out, and I'm going to bring it up because she's a teenager. She's supposed to be a teenager. Is when the first scene where we meet Melanie and she's talking to Terry. She's like straddling a pole.
Yeah, I know.
And she's sticking her ass out, and she's like thrusting her chest out. And I'm like, this is supposed to be like a 15-year-old girl.
She's peacocking.
Right, and and I understand the idea is
15. Are you sure?
Okay, maybe like 17, but
I feel better at 17.
I don't.
It's only slightly.
Point being, it was weird, and like, and I understand they were trying to go like her body language is more like forward, because then like the next scene is like she just like kisses Terry immediately, and he's sort of taken aback by that. And I get the idea is like she's forward and cool and dangerous and so different than his other girlfriend who complains when he stands her up for dates. What a bitch. But I thought that was weird. You're right about her hair too. It's one of those once you see you can't unsee things.
Yeah,
and
it's very distracting.
And I get it that they're trying to, like, again, make her look visually different compared to Dana or some of the other female characters we meet.
Well, Dana's Asian, though. Like, it's very... There's already going to be a stark contrast. Like, one of the cool things I actually like is they made her blonde a la Selena Kyle.
Yes.
So you have that dynamic. But she's a blonde. She looks... I get what you're saying, but if that's the reasoning, it's a terrible reason.
Right. She doesn't particularly look anything like Dana if she doesn't have hair in her face, to your point.
She doesn't have the melty string cheese hair.
Right. So yeah, I just thought it was kind of unimpressive visually.
Okay.
I liked a little bit of one of the chase scenes where they've taken a guard hostage and Batman's flying after them through the buildings, the skyline of Gotham. Cool. That's cool, but outside of that, I was disappointed in this. I agree with you that from a design standpoint, the Royal Flush Gang looks great, and there's a cool little bit when Bruce is telling Terry about the Royal Flush Gang, where they sort of flash back into Bruce's mind or something, and you see like paintings of some of the different Royal Flush Gang members and stuff over the years. Like, that was kind of cool. But
the other visual I really liked was when he uses the GCPD like computer system, whatever it is.
Yeah.
He plugs his giant 1990s phone into the system, and it comes up, and you see the computer screen, but you also see his reflection on the computer screen.
Yeah.
It's just like half of his face. You only see the reflection there. But I thought that was a neat visual.
Yeah, they didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
It was a nice little extra flourish. So. Yeah, but like I said, kind of underwhelming for me this week. 5 out of 10.
5 out of 10. All right, Liam, let's take us home with our final category, which is going to be voice acting. We have a lot of, because the Royal Flush Gang has so many people in it, 5 members before that speak. We have a brand new cast of people here coming in today. Anybody of note that we should talk about?
The 2 big ones are, one is Olivia Dabo as Melanie Walker, aka 10. Just a veteran actor, veteran voice actress. Other DC connections. She voiced Star Sapphire in the Justice League Doom movie in 2012, which of course had most of the DCAU voice cast back for that. So that's somewhat significant there.
Okay.
And I think she does a pretty good job.
Okay. Yeah, she's fine.
Again, you're trying to contrast her with the girl. She's the Catwoman or the Black Cat of this story.
Right.
Contrasting the Mary Jane Watson, Gwen Stacy girlfriend.
Right.
So, she's good at that, and I'll be interested to see when she comes back, because I think there's at least 2 more episodes with her in it.
Yeah, I think so.
And I'll be interested to see what it's if they build on that, and if it makes me care a bit more about the character. Other than that, we have George Lazenby as King, who most famously, I think he played James Bond for 1 movie. He was the guy who they decided they were done with Connery. Mm-hmm. They cast George Lazenby. Nobody liked George Lazenby, so they went back to Connery. So there's one James Bond movie that George Lazenby played James Bond in, and I don't think it's a popular one.
Okay.
We're not Bond guys on this show, so someone
guy.
else would have to correct me if I'm wrong, but my impression is that he was the in-between.
He was sandwiched in between.
Right. He's like Bond 1.5 between Connery and Connery.
Got it.
So, but I do like his performance. I think he's just asked to be like the stern, like he's playing the aristocratic villain.
Yeah.
But I
also disappointing like stepfather or like whatever he is to
and there's like a good scene where he's like lecturing 10 about how take your time, and then she doesn't, and she ends up tripping an alarm that causes all of the security to rain down on them. So I thought he did a good job.
Yeah, he's fine.
Outside of that, I mean, we have the rest of the Royal Flush Gang does all right. Amanda Donoghue as Queen and Scott Cleverton as Jack. Jack is pretty silly.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that works. When you have four...
He's the quip
4
guy.
or 5, yeah. He's just there to say a couple funny things and, you know, be a knife pervert. So, but yeah, other than that, you get. I mean, your big stars are going to be Will Friedle carries most of this as Terry, and you said we don't get enough of Kevin Conroy's Batman. That's what I think. That's what this needed, almost across the board as we're getting to our last category here.
Yeah.
If you had more of that dichotomy, if you had a little bit more of Kevin Conroy's Bruce explaining, look, this is why I made those sacrifices.
Right.
This is why that, you know... Again, obviously, Return of the Joker hadn't been made yet. Justice League hadn't been made yet. But, you know, that thing about one night was obviously very specific.
Sure.
And, you know, so I think there could just... There's so much potential for, I think, like, an all-time great here... And it's just okay, and that kind of makes it a bit disappointing for me. But I went 6 out of 10 for my voice scores here.
I went a very, very different 5 out of 10. It's okay. I think that Olivia does okay as Melanie /10. There were a couple beats where I felt like she was sort of. I don't know. I get what they were going with her. She was supposed to be low energy because she's a teen and she's angsty, but at times I feel like it just seemed like she was kind of going through the motions and didn't really deliver her lines with a lot of emotion. And I guess that was it. She's supposed to be, like I said, this depressed, angsty teen. But I don't know. I just didn't feel like it was authentic at times. Everything else was fine, but nothing blew me away. So I think that's why I ended up giving it a 5 out of 10.
That's fair enough.
All right, so I think that takes us to our final scores. So my final score for this episode is going to be a 21 out of 40.
And mine is a completely different 20 out of 40.
You see, we're different.
We're the same, but we're a little different.
We're a little different.
It's almost like we're related.
It's almost like that, yes. Yeah, it's...
I guess we can talk about rewatchability real quick before we wrap up here. I guess it's important just because 10 is a player in the rest of the series, and you know she appears in some of the tie-in comics and the current ongoing in continuity Rebirth Batman Beyond series. Mm-hmm. So she is like an important character to the Batman Beyond mythos. But is that something? Can you not just explain in like 2 minutes what happens here?
You probably could. I mean.
I didn't. Again, I feel like I'm being harsher on. Like I sound like I hate this. I didn't hate it.
No, it's hard because we're coming off of that awful episode from last week.
Yeah,
we were so down on that. But no, I didn't hate this episode. It's just it's not good and it's not bad. That's why it gets literally 50% of a perfect score. Like it's
middle of the road.
It's middle of the road. It's just okay. I think visually because it's striking. You get the Royal Flush Gang. It's good. It's not a must see.
Yeah. I
would say though, if you're watching through Batman Beyond, go ahead and give it a watch. It's 20 minutes. It'll give you some backstory to why Melanie as a character matters later on in the episodes. Also kind of gives you a little of the building of relationship between Terry and Bruce, because there is, at the very end, there is a little bit of bonding when Bruce brings in Selina Kyle. He starts mentioning Selina Kyle, that he can relate to Terry as far as falling for somebody that is on the opposite side of the law.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wouldn't say it's a must-see. I would say it's if you have time and you're watching Batman Beyond, go ahead and watch it. Don't skip. It's not a skip it, but it's not a must-see, I would say.
Our watchability recommendation also in the middle of the road.
Right.
Much like our scores.
Yes, indeed. All right, Liam. Well, let's begin to wrap things up. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We appreciate you listening. Make sure you check us out at DCAUreview.com. If you are listening to us there already, thank you for checking us out. Make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes and Google Podcasts. We would appreciate that. If you don't mind, as we say occasionally, if you can give us a 5-star review on iTunes, give us your 5 minutes or so to sign in and give us a review. We would very much appreciate that because it drives up some of the listenership. We want to get more people involved and get more feedback. We want to get better. We want people to like us, certainly, and listen to us.
Please.
Please like us. Please tell your friends about this show.
Correct.
Also, make sure if you have any comments, you got any commentary, any thoughts on this episode or any of the other 38 episodes that we've discussed, or 38 plus episodes, a couple movies we've done, talk to Liam. He's on Twitter all the time, at DCAU Review, Liam.
Yeah, we started doing a thing we did at the end of January where we kind of announced what we'd be doing a little bit further in advance. Usually I would announce what we're doing basically the week before, or like the Tuesday before the Saturday. So we announced probably the second week of January that we'd be doing Batman Beyond this month. And so look out for our Twitter. Probably we'll do another poll, see what you guys think we should do in March. So now that we're getting into February, we'll be in Batman Beyond all month, and then when we get into March, we'll move on to one of the other 3 shows.
It is the 20th anniversary, as we mentioned, I think last week. It is the 20th anniversary of Batman Beyond, debuted in January 20 years ago this year.
So I thought it was good to get back in here, and obviously our Twitter friends and fans agreed. It's always cool when that works out.
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, any feedback on what we should do next, what you think of the existing episodes we have, Cal's done a great job setting up DCAUreview.com. If you're newer to the show, you can go back and listen. You can listen to our previous Batman Beyond episodes. You can search by villain, by show, any sort of topic like that. So
it's all broken down into categories. So
yes, it's really easy to navigate.
Absolutely. All right, and don't forget, as always, just briefly, we also have a Twitter contest going on. We talk about it every single week. You can win a copy of the Batman Almost Got Him card game. We're giving one of those away. All you got to do is retweet our pin tweet every single week, and then once we hit 250 followers, Liam, we're going to give away that game. We're getting close, super close. We're going to be excited to give it away.
Smell it.
Absolutely. So with that, we'll wrap things up. I'm Cal.
And I'm Liam.
And we will talk to you guys on the next episode of the DCAU.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.